Hey guys, welcome to the 2020 Honda Civic Type R. As many of you know, I love this car. I've been really excited to drive the 2020 with all the updates and changes they've made. I think the goal of this video is just going to be to see, is this even more special and more compelling of a purchase than it was before with all of these changes? You can see one of them right in front of me. This is the Alcantara steering wheel that's new for 2020. It feels really good in hand. It's nice and soft. Hopefully it wears well over time, but in about 3,000 miles of journalist use, it seems pretty much brand new. We also have an Alcantara shift boot, a different shift knob that's reminiscent of the Integra Type R, a little bit heavier, and I believe Honda's also changed the shift linkage to just give you better feel. We've got some more changes on the outside. The first that you'll notice is this Boost Blue. It's taken me a little bit to warm up to, but after spending a few days with it, I think it's a pretty good looking color. It has a nice contrast with some of the red accents on the interior, and I think a lot of people will really like this color. We have an updated front braking system, so we have solid two-piece rotors now instead of drilled, which is just better for brake cooling and performance, daily driving. There's lots of inherent advantages to having just a plain rotor face. We also have a different set of pads that will hopefully reduce fade on track and just be a little bit better all-around performer. Same massive, slightly ridiculous looking 20-inch wheels, but that's okay. Honda has enlarged the front grille opening for a little bit better cooling. They've blocked out this area here so it's no longer a fake grille, and they've added a little accent. They've revised the front splitter too to compensate for the extra downforce from that larger grille opening. And around back, they've also changed these vents, and I think they actually look pretty good. There's a little bit of a separation between the back piece of plastic and the vent itself, and it doesn't look as fake. It looks slightly more functional now, which is nice. Otherwise, the same Type R we've all come to love or hate, depending on what camp you're in. I personally think this is just one of the best performance buys on the market. I love the space, I love the usability of it. I do wish Honda offered it with some type of compact spare tire solution. I think there is something that you can get through Honda accessories that will work. I did take it, however, this week on a 900-mile road trip, and it was fine, no issues. These seats fold pretty much flat, giving you a ton of cargo space. You don't quite get the same exciting seats in the back as you do get in the front, but Honda does give you red seat belts, which is exciting. Lots of space to stretch out in the back seats. I'm 5'10", set to my driving position. I just have a ton of room in here. It's fantastic. You could fit 4 normal or large size adults in here, no problem. Not something you can necessarily say for a lot of the other cars in this class. Under the hood, we have the same 2-liter turbocharged engine that makes 306 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. This thing is just a masterpiece. It's one of the best performance 2-liter turbocharged engines I've ever driven, and I think it's probably one of the best on the market today. It's fantastic. It is a powerhouse. It's efficient. It's just an amazing motor. Honda outdid themselves on this. All right, guys. Well, I think that kind of covers a lot of the changes, and that's a pretty good general walk around of the Type R. Let's take this thing for a drive. That's what it's all about. And we'll see if some of these changes translate to a better driving experience behind the wheel. Before we get started with this drive, I would like to thank our sponsor for this video, Fantom Wallet. They've been an awesome sponsor of the channel this year, and I do really enjoy using this wallet on a daily basis. It's just kind of taken out the bulge out of my back pocket and made things just a little bit sleeker and slimmer in daily use. So I do really like this as a product, and I do use it every day. I wouldn't promote something that I didn't actually enjoy using. They also have the Fantom Touch Guard, which is a brass antimicrobial hand tool that you can use to open, touch, push, and just kind of go about your daily life with. And it's definitely not a substitute for proper sanitation during COVID-19, but it does give you just a little bit of separation from just touching things in day-to-day use. So they sell a number of products on their website. If you guys are interested in anything that they offer, use the code TOPHER15 for 15% off. Big thanks to Fantom Wallet for their support this year. Let's get on with the video. When you start up the Civic Type R, it puts you straight into sport mode. You have 3 drive modes: Comfort, Sport, and Plus R. And to be honest, one of my biggest concerns with this Type R and the changes that they made is what does it sound like now with the new active sound control. A lot of customers complained that on track and in driving scenarios they couldn't quite hear their Type R and they wanted it to sound a little bit better. So Honda has put in, or piped in, some engine noise through the speakers. That's what it sounds like in Sport. Okay, so pretty much sounds like it did before, just a big vacuum cleaner. In Comfort, there's very little active sound control. It's a little bit quieter. Let's see what it's like in Plus R. You can hear the exhaust note get just a little bit more aggressive there. When I drove the Civic Si a few months ago, they had done the same changes to the Si, many of the same changes that they have done to this Type R. But so many of those changes and additions are better and different in the Type R. So the moral of the story is you can't judge a Civic Type R based on the Si, which I'm glad to report is that's a very good thing. You can hear it's just a little bit more artificial in Plus R mode. Let's do a little pull here and give you guys an idea of what it sounds like all the way through the rev range. I think on track, this is a good thing because you can actually hear the car now. You got the windows down, you just had trouble hearing where your revs were at and when to shift. This kind of helps solve that problem. So I'm not terribly disappointed with the way this active sound control sounds. I think it could be better, but it also could be a lot worse. It could sound a little bit more like the Civic Si, which I think is just, it's horrible. Using my phone here, too much acceleration. To be honest, I haven't really driven this car this much this week in Plus R mode, so not really an issue, and I think overall it's a positive for the car. It really hasn't bothered me, and if you do want to disable it, you just go into the glove box, unscrew 4 screws in the dash, and pull that down, and you unplug a little module, and that's it, gone, stock, same as before. The traction control system in this car. So I haven't really felt the need to turn it off all week, and that's because it's pretty liberal. It lets you get a little bit of wheel spin even with it on. It doesn't completely shut things down like a lot of other cars do. It's a very good traction control system. It works well with the front differential. It actually lets you have traction. This thing is so good, you guys. I have really enjoyed driving this Type R this week. I think I've probably driven it most in Comfort. Put it into sport mode a couple times. But to be honest, these drive modes are really well tuned for what they are. A lot of people would want to isolate different settings like steering weight and feel and engine tone and engine responsiveness. And though that would be nice, sometimes it's good to just keep things simple. And that's what Honda has done here. Each drive mode is tuned very well for the desired intent. And I think honestly, these 3 modes are they're perfect for what they are and for what they do. For me, that's more of a complaint on paper and in theory than it is in practice. Also, in comfort mode, ride comfort is a little bit improved. I can tell there's just a little bit of a difference. Even without having to drive both 19 and 20s back to back, I can tell that this ride's a little bit softer, especially in comfort mode. They've increased the damper frequency by about 10x, so it can respond to bumps, go from full stiff to soft a lot quicker than before. Just little changes. Whenever a manufacturer does a refresh of a car like this and they make a bunch of little changes, I get really excited because that means they've taken what consumers and owners have complained about and improved upon them. And that's what Honda's done here with this Type R. This is such a well-rounded performance car. My biggest complaint with this car is just the wheels and the tires. The wheels are too big, the tires are too small. That's an easy fix though. Pretty much everyone who's bought one of these things has gone to 18s, and I think everyone is pretty much the better for it. So that's probably the first thing I would do if I had a Type R, is I just swap the wheels out for a smaller wheel and tire setup. This is a gearbox that does not like to be rushed. Like all Hondas, you kind of have to take your time when you're shifting this thing, especially 1-2 from high RPMs. This car asks just a little bit of mechanical sympathy from you with regards to its gearbox. So, getting onto the highway, you can easily adjust all this Honda sensing stuff. Lane keep assist works great. It keeps you really well centered. It's been very reliable for me this week, not buggy like it was in the Civic Si. Radar guided cruise control is fantastic. Again, reliable, not buggy. If a car moves over into the other lane and slows down, the Civic Type R pretty much keeps its speed, which is great. This thing eats up miles on the highway. I've been averaging about 27, 28, 29 miles to the gallon, no matter how I drive it this week. These seats have been super comfortable. I have great visibility. The exhaust is a little bit drony, but it hasn't worn on me. Again, I did like 6-7 hour stints in this car up north, and it was fantastic. I really, really like the way this car just gets the job done on the highway. Kind of a bummer, the fuel tank is so small in this. It does really only get 300 miles out of a tank max. I was probably doing like 260 to 280. So something to consider, but again, high performance car, keeps the weight down, not a deal breaker, not the end of the world. You can easily control your speed, 5 mile in increments, by holding the button. This is coming from one of the most rudimentary cruise control systems in the previous model years, and this is a big update. This is actually a big reason why I would go for a 2020 Civic Type R as opposed to any of the other options. There are just so many little changes in this 2020 that add up to make this car even more special than it always has been. I absolutely love the way this thing drives. I think it is just, Honda's knocked it out of the park with his new Type R. If I didn't have my Volvo, I'd buy one. I'd go buy one in a heartbeat. I absolutely have loved driving this thing this week. It's totally rekindled my want for one of these. What else can I talk about? Rev matching feels about the same. It seems a little bit more reliable. Again, it won't quite give you revs under $2,000. So occasionally I'll give it a little blip with my foot. I do wish you You could change that setting a little bit easier with just a button instead of having to go through 5 screens in the menu, but that's the way it is. These brakes are just about perfection. The feel, the pedal travel has been reduced by a little bit, and the braking performance on this car is just sublime. I cannot believe how well they perform, and the feel from them is absolutely fantastic. Comfort mode. Oh, the brakes on this are just, they hurt your skull. So this Honda Sensing is actually pretty cool in how it works, especially with the manual transmission. So you can set it, the system kind of remains on all the time unless if you hit the main button. So when you start it up, all you have to do is hit set, and you can shift gears up and down as the vehicle accelerates and decelerates. It's fantastic. Lane keep assist works really well. It does add a little bit of weight to the steering, and I'd really only recommend using it on the highway. But if you just need to kind of shuffle around with something in Apple CarPlay or what have you, it's a really useful feature. It does tend to hunt around quite a bit on low speed back roads, as you can see here, but for the most part it's pretty good. So let's see how it handles the stoplight here. I'm going to downshift. It's slowing down. I'm not pressing the brakes, but I am downshifting. And I believe below a certain speed it's just going to disable. Yeah, so we're going to, under 15-20 miles an hour, it'll turn off. So it's probably not something you want to use in traffic, but as a cruise control system that works with a manual transmission, it's great. All right, let's do one last entrance ramp. We'll put it in plus R. Suspension gets super stiff. Oh boy. It's a pretty big difference. Car just gets so active too in this mode. Get a little bit of lift off oversteer. The front end is darty. It's just fantastic. And down into comfort again. Just awesome. I have not driven a front-wheel drive car in the modern era that is this visceral and this exciting and this high performance. Honestly, this is a new bar for front-wheel drive performance. Honda has tuned out a lot of the disagreeable understeer, torque steer, but for me, unless if you're driving in inclement weather or trying to rally your daily, this is the way to go. It's just so good. Alright guys, while we're just cruising here, let's do a sound system test in this Type R.
550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Hey, coming down.
I think it's acceptable. It's not the best sound system. Some songs sound pretty grainy and not that great. Depends on your audio source, of course, but I think most buyers of this car would be reasonably happy with the way it sounds. So to sum things up, if you're thinking about getting a Civic Type R and it kind of fits within your philosophy of what you want out of a car, this is the best front-wheel drive car on the market. And it's probably the best front-wheel drive car that's been made in the last 15 to 20 years. It's just so good. It's so fun. It's so enjoyable. It's really, really well sorted and well put together. A car like this makes every drive and every trip just a little bit more exciting. Every time I get into this, I look forward to it. I look forward to driving it. It's a little bit of a challenge. It's kind of a next level of performance too for a lot of the buyers who are getting into a car like this. You can get a Veloster N, but despite the way that thing looks, it feels childish. This car looks childish, feels grown up. It's kind of counterintuitive, but that's just the way it is. Alright guys, well I think that's going to sum up the Civic Type R for me. Same Civic Type R, just incrementally better. And if you're on the fence, waiting for the 2020 model year to come out, this is the one to get, I think. And even if you're spending a little bit more money, about $37,000, a little over 37 grand now for the 2020 with the changes, I do think it's worth it. Show you guys the reverse camera here. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and also a big thanks to our sponsor, Fantom Wallet, for their support of the channel. Love the Type R. Again, it just keeps getting better and better. Alright guys, that's it for this one. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.